I'm Drew Stevenson, and this video is to welcome my students to my Statutory Interpretation and Regulation class. In this class, we're going to be talking about how courts deal with statutes, right? So we're not just learning an area of substantive law, we're really focused on the methods and modes of interpretation when courts or parties use and abuse legislative history, when we apply traditional canons of construction, how parties can try to make the statute say what they want it to say, or courts make the statute say what they want it to say. So this is very focused on statutes and the interpretive issues that courts have with using statutes. That means we're going to read cases from a lot of different areas of law. So this isn't just like your property class or contracts class or torts class where you were focused on one area of law with one set of rules. Instead, we're going to read cases from different courts, but a lot of Supreme Court cases about interpreting statutes. Now, in terms of materials that we're going to use, we have a casebook, Legislation and Regulation, 3rd edition by Manning and Stevenson. No relation to me. It's actually spelled differently. And in fact, at many law schools, this course is actually called Legislation and Regulation, or Leg-Reg for short. And they all cover similar material. How to interpret and unpack statutes, the relationship between statutes, like when statutes incorporate each other by reference or supplant each other or preempt other statutes and so forth, and also the role of regulations and how the regulations flow from statutes, how we interpret regulations, and how courts deal with them. I have also authored a set of Law in a Flash flashcards that are very relevant to the course. More than half of the set is relevant for this particular course. I draw a lot of multiple choice, turn a lot of these flashcards into multiple choice questions on my final exam. You really need to go through them, spend all semester actually going through them. You will get a big payoff on the final exam from studying my flashcards. And some of the flashcards are based on questions, multiple choice questions on my final exam. In fact, many semesters, I've given it an all multiple choice exam with a lot of questions drawn from the flashcards. And then the other questions will be based on cases we read and concepts we discussed in class, lectures, and so forth. The materials I have some additional handouts that I post or make available to the students. Some semesters, especially in semesters where my students are taking the exam at home, we will also probably include some short answer questions and maybe an essay or something like that. But there will always be some multiple choice questions and a lot of them will be based on my flashcards. Now, another thing about how we're going to do this course. Number one, because I'm teaching online, you're watching a video, I have pre-recorded the lecture part of what I would normally do in the classroom, talking about cases, presenting cases, explaining the concepts in a series of a few dozen videos. And you're expected to watch those for our class time. And then we will combine that with some live Zoom sessions where we have a discussion or some Q&A, clarify concepts. Occasionally I'll want to present a story or a news item, discuss a news item relevant to our course materials or something like that in our live Zoom sessions. But my delivery of course content about the cases themselves and the concepts is going to be done through pre-recorded lectures that you can watch anytime at your convenience, and they're posted not only on YouTube, but embedded into our Canvas course page along with the other materials. So that's pretty important to understand. The other thing that I want to clarify is that we're actually starting the semester with chapter 3 in the casebook that focuses on administrative law and the regulatory state. So we're actually doing the regulation part of the course first. I think it's less confusing for students that way. It's very intensive statutory discussion and so forth, but that is how I've arranged my course. So we're going to do chapters 3, 4, and 5, and then near the end of the semester, we'll loop back and do chapters 1 and 2, which are sort of the historical canons of construction from the common law period, and some cases about how to use legislative history and the doctrines of preemption and some things like that. And so just keep in mind, we're kind of diving in and starting with the section that's really a standalone section that's the introduction to administrative law and regulatory law, so that you can see how the courts are interpreting agency statutes. And as a matter of fact, an awful lot of our statutory cases or litigation where we are interpreting statutes involve regulation and regulatory agencies. So I think it's in practice, that's a lot of the context where you will be doing statutory interpretation is in the regulatory framework. So I look forward to having all of you in class and hope that you enjoy these videos.